I think, self-awareness tools are absolutely kind of a way for me to understand myself and a lens through which to see myself clearly and kind of understand why I do the things I do, why I'm motivated the way I'm motivated. And yet, as a person who I very much identify with being kind of an intersectional Black woman, I try not to over-identify with any particular part of my identity. So while I am very Black and proud, and I say it loud, there are other aspects of my identity that I'm also very connected to. And so I think the Enneagram becomes another tool. And then just like any other tool, I have to figure out, how does it apply? And then how do I use this? And then it also is very contextual. So I don't put a lot of pressure on these tools to speak to every single part of my identity.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Camille, and this is Enneagram for the Culture, where two dope Black therapists discuss how therapy, Blackness, and the Enneagram come together.
Hi.
Hello.
We're excited.
I'm excited for today.
In this conversation, we're chatting with our beloved Enneagram 3s.
Yeah, so first off, we'll kind of just do a brief summary of what a 3 is. So the 3 on the Enneagram is sometimes called the achiever. It lives in the heart triad, and it is a type that is sometimes described as adaptable, driven. They're really good at visioning and seeing what something can be. Their basic fear is of being worthless, without value, or apart from their achievements. And then their basic desire is to feel worthwhile, accepted. And sometimes a message that can ring in a Enneagram 3 mind is, you are good or okay as long as you're successful and others think well of you. And so we'll hear some of that in the conversation. But if you want to learn a deeper dive into 3s, we, on episode 7 of both seasons 1 and 2, we spend time really fleshing out a lot of what it looks like and means to be a 3.
So in this conversation, you're going to hear a bit of a theme of like over-identifying come up, and we thought that it was a good opportunity to just touch on how we can and want to. Our goal and hope is to like use a tool like the Enneagram to feel expansion, to feel that not restricted, and we feel it's important to like make that really clear, because it can just sometimes feel like it becomes a fine line where you use a tool like this and you end up like over-identifying with your type. And so, yeah, we just wanted to highlight that it's cool that it comes up in our discussion and remind us that that's not the goal. It's not about being boxed in. And so some things to be aware of if you kind of start to, like we said, it can be a fine line. If you start to teeter on that line, is anything that you may read about your type or learn about your type or any element of the Enneagram really that feels like it's feels restrictive. That's a good indication that you're probably over-identifying. And also something else that's pretty common is like when you hear people say, well, that's just how I am. That's just my type. That's another indication that you're probably, or that someone is over-identifying with their type. And it just means you're not getting all of the benefit you could get out of this tool by understanding who you really are, by understanding your type structure. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what's cool about the Enneagram, something that me and Kim really like, is that there are avenues within the type or within the tool to be able to not get boxed in. There's the wings, there's the arrows of strength and weakness and health. So there's tools within the Enneagram to help you to be able to expand just from being your number. So you can look at your wings, you can look at your arrows of growth and stress, you can look at the levels of development. So there's lots of different ways that it doesn't have to feel boxed in. There's different triads that you can learn from and lean on to be able to, again, have that expansive nature to what it is to be your type. So as you know, we talk about on the podcast, we like to kind of create that expansiveness and give you guys information to help it not feel so boxed in.
Yeah. Something that a lot of people ends up being a barrier to even being open to tools like this or work like this. Is that, someone is trying to say, this is who you are, trying to like figure you out. And, this is, it can be an ongoing like curiosity that we all have about, life and ourselves as we're doing this thing called life. And so, no, not trying to, that's not what it's about.
And I think part of that, as if I could jump in, is that, and our guest talks about this too, the layers of who we are and what space we take up in this world as the identities that we hold, and how even our identities create an expansiveness to the Enneagram, because that question that we ask about, like, how does this intersect with your Blackness? How does this number, how does this type weave into how you show up in the world? And furthering too, that sometimes we have other tools in our pocket that help us with self-development and understanding. And so our guest also talks about layering the Enneagram with astrology. We know people that layer it with Strengths Finder. So there's lots of ways that you can take this one tool and make it as big and as expansive as you want it to be.
Yep. I think that's important to call out, because sometimes people feel like, again, it has to be one or the other. Like it has to, and no, like a lot of people, it's one of the angles I approach the Enneagram with and lenses it and Christianity and my faith and my beliefs. So excited.
Yeah, let's get into our episode with our awesome guest.
Yep, enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce our guest.
Go ahead.
Today we have Margaret A. Brunson, PhD in PA. She is a transformative leader and luminary who considers brunch a verb, dance floors sacred, and music one of life's greatest treasures. Dr. Margaret is the founder and principal thought partner of Illuminated Leadership Solutions, a consulting and coaching firm that leads individuals, organizations, and communities to and through transformation. Welcome, Dr. Margaret.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks.
Yes, we're glad to have you.
So let's jump in.
Yes.
Let's.
So we always start off, Margaret, with how the Enneagram showed up for you this week. So you sharing a story about how you noticed your type show up. And so do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I want you to start.
Okay. My Enneagram, the one that I thought of to share today is, and I actually picked it for you, Margaret, because I know that you have been feeling this, is the Olympics are over. And I have a really hard time with goodbyes. I always have. Ever since I was a little kid, my mom used to say that like I would like fall out with goodbyes. Like I would be crying the whole way home because the fun was over. Like the fun was over. I wasn't going to get to see my people anymore. Uncle David's leaving, like whatever it was. Like it was such a disaster when the fun was ending. And this week, I literally cried that the Olympics were over. I was like, wait, it's gone. And I was crying and it was just so fun and it was so good. And it was such a good Olympics. And I was like, we don't have it anymore. It's not on. And then I also thought I picked you too I picked this for you too, because I was like, and I don't get to see the commercials with Margaret anymore because you were on the commercials. And I was sad that I wasn't going to see you anymore walking.
Walking at the end of the commercial.
Did you see that? Did you see Margaret? Margaret was in the commercials during the Olympics.
Like all of them?
No, there was one political ad that was running during the Olympics, and I was at the end of it. So yeah,
I definitely didn't see that.
I actually had a few people come up to me last night and say, "Are you the person that was in that commercial?" Like, yeah, that was me. Hilarious. That's hilarious.
Yes.
No, I like that story, Camille. I think so, and I'm grateful that I asked you to start because I don't always think of my life in terms of like how my certain personality types are showing up. But I think the Olympics is a good example because I wasn't so sad about the end of the Olympics, right? I was motivated because I was like just super excited for all the people that won. And I think that's, obviously a connection to my Enneagram type. But it also kind of motivated me. Like, I don't necessarily want to be an Olympian, but I'm like, let me do whatever I'm doing at that level, right? Like be able to see, like get the gold, or even a silver or bronze. Cause I have to also remember like they are champions as well.
Yeah.
And they made it to the podium, which is something that not a lot of people do. Not everyone does. So the Olympics was super motivating. I also really appreciated like just the youthful nature of the folks in the Olympics, even if they're not like young in age, that there was just like a youthful vibrancy. So that's also a reminder for me as I get older, like, yeah, you're good. You can still be vibrant. And you can also do new things. There was one runner who was like, I wasn't even running track 4 years ago. And I was like, what? Just a reminder of, how great you can become in a short amount of time. So I'll say maybe that's one way I think the Enneagram, my Enneagram type has shown up for me in the last couple of weeks.
That's a great example because I'm not thinking I want to be that great when I'm watching the Olympics at this moment. It doesn't really motivate me. I'm just like, wow, look at them. And you're like, I'm motivated.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way looking at anyone who's at like the top of their thing, like folks, we all have a love for Beyonce, most of us. And I think when I look at Beyonce, I'm like, yeah, like she's the best at what she does. I don't want to be like Beyonce, but I definitely want to be like the best at what I do, or one of the best at what I do. So
love that.
I mean, I totally relate, but that makes sense because I think we're the same type, huh?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what your type is.
Tell us about your, we'll probably get there. Tell us like how you learned about the Enneagram.
Yeah. So I thought about this because years ago, it had to be like 2005 or 6. I was working in the mental health field, and I was like training mental health professionals who were going out into the community doing case management because I had done that work. And then I was also just a really good trainer. And so I was training these mental health professionals that were working with youth in the community. And I'm always trying to help people understand themselves better, because I think if you understand yourself better, you can help other people and do it from a place of like genuine support and not because you're trying to solve or resolve something within yourself. Mm-hmm. And so I found out about the Enneagram Institute and I signed up for their newsletter. This was like, 2005 or 2006. But I think, it became just noise in my inbox because, we sign up for newsletters, we read half of them, or we get really hyped for a short amount of time. And then we move on to the next shiny thing. And so then there was like this recent sort of resurgence or reemergence of the Enneagram and conversations. And I went back to my old email address and I was like, I think this is the newsletter that I signed up 4 years ago. And sure enough, it was. And so I kind of delved back into it after so many years and was like, oh, this is interesting, And so I ended up taking the test. And then I also did a coaching session with someone who is studying the Enneagram. And she was like, you could be a couple of types. And so she gave me this book to read about my type. And she was like, see which one resonates with you. So I appreciated that aspect of it as well. But I'll say, for the purposes of typing myself, I would say I'm an Enneagram 3. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How'd you feel landing on that?
Well, I'll say I'm wired for like self-awareness and curiosity. And I will say all of the tools that I use to understand myself better they're all pretty consistent, you know? And so I didn't have a problem accepting it. I think some of the descriptions of the three and kind of like how we're motivated don't always resonate. But I also appreciate how the Enneagram speaks to the fact that you can be in a place of health, right? And so if you're in a place of health, it may look differently than someone who may not be on this journey of healing or health. Yeah. So in that regard, I'm like, yeah, this is me. This is who I am.
Yeah. I'm also a 3.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when I see people killing it, I'm like, oh, I want to go find something to just kill. Not like kill, but like
not literally.
Accomplish.
Accomplish.
Very, very, very inspirational. But yeah, after that came up in another conversation, the part about, how the Enneagram helps us it captures just the different levels, how, we can be distressed or unhealthy, and what it can look like when we're more, in a healthy place or more aligned. And a previous guest was actually saying how that part, like, specifically helped her to land on her type, because she could see herself in the not so healthy.
Yes, she did it the opposite way
at the time. So
yeah,
we like that about this tool, and that it's nuanced and dynamic in that way. Not like a lot of others that kind of says this is who you are, and it just feels kind of rigid or stuck or stagnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's interesting, because I do think it's sometimes easier to see your faults or flaws than it is to see your gifts.
Yeah.
Or to see even your potential, right? And I think there's even a gift in kind of seeing other people's potential.
Absolutely.
And I think this tool does speak to that. It speaks to your potential, whereas maybe some other tools are like, well, this is how you are. So, I mean, I administer different assessments to people, and it's like, well, what do I do with this?
Mm-hmm.
How do I navigate the world with this? And sometimes the tool itself doesn't help you understand not only kind of what your potential is, right? But like what that potential then means for your connection to other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, the Enneagram is helpful with. It's like, how does this identity, if you will, or this aspect of my identity, or how I choose to name myself, connect with other people and in community, and gives you a lens to kind of show up, better, or at least well, to learn how to show up well.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think just hearing you speak about, just one of the things I really do love about threes is that you guys can see the potential in things so beautifully and so easily. And like how you're like, that's what, I went to, what am I when I'm my healthiest? Because I see that easily. Like I see my potential. I see other people's potential. I just loved hearing you even say that, of like the potential part is very like familiar to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
That's beautiful.
Really.
All the ways that we learned. That's cool that it's been from 2005, that it was like something in your inbox from way back then, and then it kind of came back around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, oh, I've heard of this, and then it just made me curious, like, oh, why did it come back around in such a vigorous way? But I kind of get it. I get how that happens with things in different iterations of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is interesting. It is interesting to think about, because it did come back bit like loud and yeah. So with that being said, and we, on the podcast talk a lot about how the Enneagram can sometimes it can place people in boxes, and it can kind of leave out our identity. Some of the ways that some people teach it. And we like to not do that. And so a question that we wanted to ask you is, how do you notice your Enneagram intersecting with your identity as a Black woman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this question. because I'll say I don't necessarily notice it in an explicit way. I think, self-awareness tools are absolutely kind of a way for me to understand myself, and a lens through which to see myself clearly and kind of understand why I do the things I do, why I'm motivated the way I'm motivated. And yet, as a person who I very much identify with being kind of an intersectional Black woman, I try not to over-identify with any particular part of my identity. So while I am very Black and proud, and I say it loud, there are other aspects of my identity that I'm also very connected to. And so I think all of that to say, the Enneagram becomes another tool. And then just like any other tool, I have to figure out, how does it apply? And then how do I use this? And then it also is very contextual. So I don't put a lot of pressure on these tools to speak to every single part of my identity. I don't put pressure on, and when I say other tools, Camille, you know this, but I'm very into astrology as well. And I see it as a tool for self-awareness. I actually see a lot of parallels between the Enneagram and astrology. So I'm also like, is this just astrology explained a little more succinctly? That's a question for another day. But I think, when we look at these tools, we take the tool as it is, and then we say, okay, what does this mean for me in my context? And my context is I'm an intersectional Black woman living in the South. And so in terms of the Enneagram and how it intersects with that, for me, there is an element of, okay, you're a girl, you're a Black girl growing up in the South. I grew up in the 80s, and 90s. So it's like, you be quiet, you don't get in grown folks' business. You don't brag. I also grew up in the Black church. So there's an expectation to be humble and to not tell everybody what you do. You don't brag on yourself, you brag on God. And so even this idea of achievement and being motivated by achievement has not been something that I've been, how do I say it? Practiced in, and being open about. It's like, no, I'm doing it because this matters. And it does matter, it matters for a bigger picture and a bigger purpose, but it's also because I like to win. and I can say that, like, it's probably one of the reasons I'm not in sport. Never played sports because I never wanted to lose. Like, somebody's got to lose, but I mean, not me, not me. And what happens when I lose? No, I'm gonna be a loser. So like, getting more to a healthy place in regard to, like, there could be multiple winners. We can all win. There's a place for all of us to win. And I think that is, as a Black person living in America, there's a complexity around that, like achievement and what that looks like, because it's not just an individual experience either. When you feel connected to a people and a story as part of your identity, then your winning is not only about yourself, it's also about your community and your people. So then achievement for achievement's sake, that's just not enough, when you're Black. However, the other part that I think is important is that we also get to name ourselves. We get to decide what we want to be. And so we also, can't let go of that. So all of that to say, the Enneagram being a 3, how it connects to my Blackness, I think I use it as another tool to understand my multiple identities and just the nuance of being a human being. And not being one thing just because I'm Black.
That's right.
So I have a follow-up question. So how's it going, like, relating to the experience of taking an L? losing? Like, is that still something that you don't do, that you avoid? Or do you feel like over time, like, yeah, just tell us more, like, how do you relate to that experience?
Yeah. So interestingly, and I know we're going to talk about therapy in a little bit, but this is something I've been working through in therapy as well, and like reshaping my relationship with failure, because I actually have a problem with that term. I think that some things that we call failure are not failure. Like, for example, if I tried a new thing and it doesn't work out, or I'm not great at it, but I tried it and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Like, is that really a failure? Because I also recognize that one of my core values is like learning and growth. So if I'm oriented to learning and growing as a person, then failure is necessary, because how else do I learn if I am good at everything that I do? Right. Or if I don't try new things because I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. And, being a coach, this is also something I work with my clients on, because, we don't like to lose. We don't like to fail. And then it keeps us stuck, in patterns where there might be something new for us, or something like beautiful trying to emerge from those moments of, let me just try this. And so I can't I can't try to walk alongside people on that journey if I'm not willing to take it as well. And so I intentionally try to put myself in positions where I know I might not be great at this, and it's okay, because I want to try it. And if I try it and I learn something new about myself or even that thing, then it's like, all right, I'm growing. And I'll say, I don't know if this is being a Enneagram 3 or not, but I don't like it. I don't like to lose. I don't like to not be, good at things, or for people to look at me and be like, oh, that was, that was nice. It's like, what? So yeah, it's a constant journey, I'll say, a constant journey.
Just love, I love the honesty, because I think so many people feel like that, right? Like, so many people, it's just being able to be like, I don't like to lose, I like to win. And achievement, and even just talking about your background of like, that wasn't something that was like pushed on, like, it was almost like if you were to just be a winner and to brag on yourself and to be shiny and all this stuff, it would almost be like bad. It would go against some cultural norms in all the intersections of how you grew up. And so to be able to kind of be an adult now and to own, I'm going to push back on some of those, and kind of own that I like to win, and achievement is like, I even loved what you said, like achievement for achievement's sake. But as a Black person, it's not just achievement for achievement's sake. It's achievement for a bigger picture. And there's nothing wrong with that. And what you even said about the Olympics, like, these people are achieving and it inspired you. Like, so like, thank God they achieved. Thank God we had the Olympics to watch people win gold medals, because it makes us want to then win gold medals. Not me, but I'm going to cheer on the people winning the gold medal. Like, you do that. That's great. But for some people, it's going to be like, well, I'm going to run faster. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to be great at my craft. And that's a really great thing. So I appreciate that you like to win and that you like to achieve. That's good.
Yeah, no, Camille, you just helped me. Let me write this down. You just helped me connect something to astrology. So I'm going to share it real quick. So both Camille and I are Leos, and everyone has Leo in their chart. So Leo is a sign that's ruled by the sun. And I always say to people, because people have like a love-hate relationship with Leos, they love to hate us. And they're like, Leos are attention seeking. And I said to this guy one time, I said, well, is it that I'm seeking your attention, or do you just notice me? And he was like, and I said, well, here's the thing though. Here's the thing. I'm not trying to get your attention. When the sun is in the sky, it is shining. It is not asking for permission to shine. Now we have to decide what engagement we're going to have with the sun. We put on sunscreen, hopefully wear your sunscreen. We put on sunglasses to keep the sun from burning our eyes. We don't stay out in it for long because as beautiful and as warm as the sun is, it will burn you and it will also hurt you. So there's this like dual relationship we have with this energy that the sun provides, which is the same as like Leo energy. We all have it in our astrological chart. I think the thing that the Enneagram that I'm realizing in this moment is like, there are reasons why we shine, right? There is a motivation to the shine. So like you said, Camille, it's not about you wanting to win gold, but what I know about your Enneagram type, because actually the two types that people have said, oh, maybe one of these is yours, is the 3 and the 7. Because they were like, you're kind of presenting a little bit like a 7. And it's this shining because you want people to enjoy life. You want to have fun. There's like a motivation around like living your life and living freely. And then my shine is like, no, if I am achieving, I'm actually maybe showing someone else the way. So there's still like this sunshine component to even the two different sort of motivations. But nonetheless, you're shining.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like, I think, like I said, these tools are there to help us like understand these nuances a little better. But yeah, that's really good.
I love that line that you told that person. Are you like, am I seeking your attention or you just noticed me?
I mean, people need help. They need help to understand what's going on with them in a moment. It's like, I'm not doing anything to seek your attention. You're just not understanding why you're drawn to me, and that's okay. I can help you. Figure that out. Everyone listening to this is going to be like, oh my gosh, she's such a Leo.
Dr. Margaret, tell us about a hope that you have for Black people around growth work. And that can be work that they're doing via the Enneagram or therapy or any type of coaching, any type of personal development. But we're interested specifically like on an individual level. I hope you have for Black people who are invested in growth work, and then for the culture, like as a collective.
Yeah. Thank you for that question, because I often think of my work in those two sort of domains. Like, what is the individual? What is the implication for this? The implication of this for me as an individual, and then also a collective, which, is kind of how I alluded to it earlier. My hope individually is that people understand, Black folks especially understand that we don't have to just be one thing. And that we actually do have the right to name ourselves. And I said that earlier, and I think I want to explain kind of what I mean.
Please.
So, when we say like, oh, I'm Black, I think there is obviously a cultural component to that. There's a sort of shared experience and a collective struggle even that we have as Black people, where it's like, okay, if I am naming myself as Black, then I'm saying something about my experience in the world. And at the same time, to name myself as Black can also mean that I might fall outside of these norms and paradigms that people have about what Blackness is. So I love how some of the videos I'm seeing on Instagram are like categorizing these types of Black girls. Like, you got the emo Black girl and the earthy Black girl and the ratchet Black girl. And it's like, but we're all Black, no matter what category you're in, how you choose to identify yourself, you're still Black. And so I think my hope for the individual and the collective is the same, in that we are expanding and broadening our definitions of Blackness to fit our own humanity, because we're not a monolith. We're not a homogenous group of people. And I think our ability to heal and like be together as people And also love ourselves well is contingent, it like rests on, or maybe it hinges on this idea that like we have to be who we are.
Yeah.
So I think like growth tools, self-development tools are not to help you try to fit in, right? It's like to say, this is who I am. Now let me find my people, let me find my community, and let me be myself without feeling like there's a threat to the community if I choose to be different or like countercultural. And so I think our ways of, my collective hope is that our ways of sort of growing as individuals and learning more about who we are also end up making room and space for like the fullness of who we are as Black people. Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, you know, I have a good friend, I'll call his name Dr. DeLeon Gray. He's a professor and researcher, and he does work around belonging. And I remember years ago, he and I had a conversation about communalism, because he was studying and learning this as a concept of belonging, essentially where you are not only trying to fit in, but you're also standing out. So you're standing out and fitting in at the same time, which is essentially, you know, belonging. It's like, how do we both stand out, be who we are, but also fit in and connect with our community? And so he started reading and studying this idea of communalism. And we had a conversation one day about it. He said, you know, we were taught our whole lives that we can't love others unless we love ourselves. He said, but if you look through the lens of communalism, it actually flips it. It says, the way other people love me can teach me how to love myself. So if other people are loving me and loving me well, that can actually teach me how to love myself. So I think that's also a part of my hope for the collective, is that we love each other so good. And I know that's not proper English, but we love each other so good that individually we learn how to love ourselves and to love ourselves well.
That makes me feel like all types of things. This is what's happening in my body right now. I have chills on my arms. I feel like tears kind of welling up at the bottom of my eyeballs. And there's something really warm that's happening, like right here, just above my gut. So that I'm listening and like visualizing, and it's just an overwhelming sense of, I guess, joy, you know, to be able to tap into that. That vision for us.
Yeah, it did me the same way when I first heard it. I was like, "Oh, that's good," right? Because sometimes you don't know what to do to even love yourself. You know, like I know both of you are therapists, and you sit with people and you help them like on these journeys of love, whether it's for themselves or other people or whatever. And you know that sometimes people are just like, I don't know what to do. But what if the community also became a healing space for you, a lens for you to see yourself, right? And I think that's what we need as not just a culture, but like a community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that it's real, because even when you just said therapy, like, yeah, like the way that your therapist cares for you and loves you might be the first place that you feel that. And it might be the safe relationship, the safe space where you actually set a boundary and someone doesn't freak out, or you say the hard thing and the person doesn't shame you. Or you come in, you know, crying and the person isn't looking at you crazy. Like, so that love that your therapist or the communal like part of that is a huge healing agent of what we do. But then that's micro. And then, like I've expanded it even to obviously families and like attachment theory and moms and caregivers and their children, that like, how a baby feels is important for how they develop. how a person's being loved in those moments during childhood. And then even macro level, like when we think about social justice, and it's like, if I'm not loving others, then what it like, that says something, not says something about me, but there's something there that it's important for me to, in community, love others, because that helps me love myself. And, or if I'm receiving love from my community, then I feel important and valued. And so when we think about the world and the injustices, that's really big.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's a symbiotic relationship. Yeah,
it's kind of like that. I mean, it's sort of a little bit adjacent. Like, no one's free until we're all free. And so, yeah, if I'm hating you, like, how does that then turn back on me?
Yeah, no, that's good. My wheels are turning now because, you know, so much of this conversation too is about like liberation. And, you know, for me, like love and liberation go hand in hand. And I think sometimes when we're not loving, it's because we're not free.
Yeah.
I've been saying lately that I think sometimes when we are wanting a safe space, we are actually wanting a space to be free, to be ourselves, because no one can really guarantee our safety. And I get it. I know we want to feel safe. That's a sort of a need that we have. And at the same time, freedom is not safe. So there's this idea that like, oh, if I can't be myself in a space, then ultimately I'm not free. So then if I'm not free, maybe no one else needs to be free either. Like there's this maybe subconscious thing happening where we're unable to see and or love one another because we can't see and or love ourselves because we're not in a free space to do so. So I think there's even in the hope of, can we love each other well enough so that we can love ourselves? There's like a liberation in that. Like love, I do believe that love liberates. And as much as people want to sort of water down love or dilute it to something that's you know, that you can make money off of, that you can commodify. It's not a little thing. You know, love is not a little thing. It's actually a revolutionary thing to love. So anyway, I think the hope is always liberation for Black folks. And there is an element of it that is our responsibility to get free too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I have a question that I don't have an answer to, but I want to toss it out because it just made my wheels are turning. When you were talking about one of your hopes being that I want Black people to be able to be themselves, and you were talking about like the Instagram, the emo girls, ratchet girls, blah blah. And I was just kind of thinking that has come up a lot in our interviews. Like a lot of people, that's how they answer it. I want Black people to be whole. I want them to be able to like what they like, be what they want to be. And I was just kind of like zooming out. I'm like, why? And maybe this is a stupid question, but I just want to toss it out as a thought. Like, why is that maybe a theme right now that like, you know, we're seeing it on Instagram, we're seeing it in conversations of, hey, that we're not a monolith. I'm wondering if like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if that was the conversation, or if this is in this moment of time, this is what Black people are talking about and needing. And I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think we're evolving. I think that we are giving ourselves more permission to see ourselves, to seek out tools like this, spaces like therapy, to get to know ourselves better in ways that, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, like it was still very taboo, very much a stigma associated with it. And so we didn't. I think we're seeing ourselves more, right? Like, so going back to the Olympics, for example, or any kind of, you know, big stage, there's more representation of just all of the different flavors, you know, of us. And so then we feel more comfortable and empowered to, like Margaret said, like name it and own it and lean into it. So those are the two things that came up for me initially.
I like that.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the, you know, evolving, kind of the evolution, because I think it's a sign of, honestly, like people getting free and healing. And also not over identify. I said this earlier, but not over identifying with one part of yourself, because I think there's a danger in that. Like, I think there's a danger in over identifying with any one part, because it puts you in a box. And I think people are evolving to the point of, especially with all the healing work people are doing. I mean, people are going to therapy now. Like, I remember when going to therapy was something you didn't talk about.
No.
People were going to therapy, but they were not telling people that they were in therapy.
Now it's like, my therapist said, we know all our friends.
I know always our therapist. Anyone, like, it's like, where there's excitement about it. There's an energy about it.
Absolutely. I know all my therapists' first, like all my friends' therapist first name. I'm like, what did Gail say? What did Caroline?
Exactly. And we have multiple therapists, because we are using the wisdom of our friends' therapists as well. Like, what's your therapist say? I would say what my therapist said. And there's something beautiful about that, because people are wanting to heal and get free. And I think getting free is also saying, is this sort of self-discovery journey of like, who am I outside of even like trying to decenter whiteness or decentering white supremacy? Is like, who am I outside of this one aspect of my identity?
Yeah.
And so much of being Black is associated with struggle sometimes, that we are now turning it into, no, being Black also means experiencing joy. It also means frolicking. I love the videos of Black boy joy and frolicking.
Me too. I watch them over and over again.
Yes, like I don't have to be these things that have been prescribed for me because of this aspect of my identity. And I think we have to hold both, because there is a way to sort of overcorrect and now like de-identify with that part of yourself. And then you kind of lose that communal connection. And I think you can hold that, like you can hold this connection with your community, and you can hold, there is a space for me regardless of how I show up. So yeah, I think it's trending. I think it's trending right now because people are healing. People are doing healing work.
I love that. I agree. Thanks for, I think both that I agree with all of what you said. And I was even thinking about when we see this even happening with gender, right? We see this happening where people are like, I think I'm non-binary. I think this fits better for me. And I identify with these parts of masculinity. I identify with these parts of femininity. And that's what makes sense to me. And I'm not just going to be in one lane when it comes to gender. And so maybe it's a whole healing journey that everyone's kind of pausing to say what fits for me and not to over-identify. So yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you said talking about the danger in over-identifying with like one particular part, I just wanted to echo, like, I totally agree. I think that is so true. And I think this is probably just a reiteration that's also the case when it comes to tools like this. It's the case when it comes to like figuring out your type. Like the point of this, the purpose of this work is not to, land on being a 3 and putting yourself in that box and stopping there. We love it because it helps us to kind of to be able to use understanding your type structure as a way to get to know who all you are outside of just that. How to learn how to pay attention to when you are over-identifying. So for example, like when you're really not trying to do anything that might end in failure or loss, right? Like that might be an indicator to us that we're in that moment, like we're really over-identifying with achievement, and being able to recognize that gives us that liberation and freedom and permission to try new things and like totally fall on our face, right?
Yeah.
And learn from it. So I just wanted to reiterate that we, even when it comes to this work and even when it comes to the Enneagram, like it's dangerous, to land on your type and over-identify with it to get stuck there.
Yeah. One of the things I talk with my clients about all the time is, this idea of needing frameworks versus like formulas, and frameworks they're always like, well, what's a framework? What's the difference? And the way I describe it is, I live in a cookie cutter house, right? My house looks just like the other houses on my street. We all have the same layout. We have the same framing. And I watched my house be built or constructed. So I remember coming into the house after they framed it. And then it was like, oh, I could start to see this is where the kitchen is. This is where my bedroom's going to be. That's where the powder room bathroom is. But then if you go into every person's house, our houses look different. Some people got carpet. I don't have carpet. Some people have colored walls, painted walls. Some people have, red sofas, whatever your decor is, you fill that out, but we all have the same framework. Or we all have the same frame. So this becomes a framework for you to then figure out, how do I make this real for myself? How do I decorate it in such a way that it fits me and who I am? Not to say just because it's a cookie cutter template or approach that now everyone has to live it out the same way or use it as a way to be stagnant and not change, right? There's a beautiful sort of, I don't know the word, but like there's a nature of curiosity and understanding yourself that's like not static, that it has to be kind of ever evolving, because you lose out on the ability to grow and like be different. And so then this goes back to the, wanting to be yourself conversation. That becomes more difficult to do when you put yourself in a box and now you're like trying to crawl out of it. Because it's like, well, how do I get out of this? You have to continue to give yourself room to shift and grow. And I'm saying that now at this point in my life, like into my 40s, and looking back on my 30s, early 30s, even late 20s, like, oh, I'm kind of different. Like the core of who I am is the same. And how I'm choosing to live out my identity in the world is very different. So, yeah.
We love that for you.
That's a great example, a great analogy. I love it. Very cool.
Thank you.
Well, you kind of mentioned this a little bit. So what has your relationship with therapy been? And we're going to combine these. Like, what's something that, because it sounds like that's been an ongoing thing. And so what has been something that's really stuck out to you, a gem that you've received from therapy that still kind of resonates for you?
Yeah. So I think about it like I've been in a wonderful relationship with therapy since 2010. So I actually got divorced in 2010. I was young. I got married young and was divorced, after about 6 years. And so it was a very difficult season in my life because not only was I walking through this like end of a marriage, but also like really learning more about myself and was just really confused. And here's the thing about me in therapy. So I have a lot of insight, right? And so I've been to therapists who are like, yeah, I just, I think you're all right. It's like, no, I'm not all right. Just because I know what's going on doesn't mean I know what to do. Like, I need you to help me. So, I've had kind of a few hit or misses with therapists, but I've also had some like hits with therapists who are wonderful. And my current therapist is wonderful. She's a dynamic Black woman who just really, really gets it and asks some really good questions. And I think asks me questions that other people may want to ask me, but might be afraid to ask me, right? Or they might make assumptions that I already know these things because I do have a lot of insight. And I know that's a gift that I have. It's not something that I cultivated by going to school. It's like, I believe it's a God-given gift that I have a lot of insight and wisdom. And so for me, therapy is a place for thought partnership. It's a place for someone asking me difficult questions, or my good friend's therapist says,
Your friend's therapist, who's your
exactly. See, we got multiple therapists. says like outsmart your smarts, like you try to outsmart your smarts. And, I think some of us do that. Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate therapy for what it is and the tool that it is. I think it's a really useful tool. Something else I'll say for this season of my life that has been different in other seasons, but I feel like I'm really doing the work now, because I know you all will appreciate this, but
already do.
yeah,
You didn't even say anything yet. I
therapy,
already
sitting
appreciate
in
it.
the therapy session is part of the work.
Yes.
And then there's like, okay, now when you get off the call or leave the office, what is your work to do as a result of that, like insight, this awareness? And I think sometimes we stop short of we stop ourselves, or maybe we don't push and move forward with doing the work because we feel so good in the therapy session. So it's like, yeah, that was a breakthrough. But it's like, yeah, but life is life.
Yeah.
So now how are you going to take this tool and use the tool? And I'll say, this time around in therapy with this particular therapist, I just feel like I'm really doing real work, and I can see that I'm doing the work. I see it because I'm looking back on situations and seeing how I'm reacting differently or responding differently or making different choices. And I'm like, oh yeah, doing my work. So that makes me feel really good. But
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you all have clients that are doing the work, and hopefully those who are listening,
talk to them, please.
Do the work.
Yes.
Do the work. Interestingly, when I was choosing a career path, I thought about clinical psych because, I love psychology. It was my undergraduate major. And then I was like, but I don't really want to sit and listen to people's problems and the same problems over and over again. I'm more like let's move forward. What are we going to do now? And so I love coaching because most of my clients have therapists, which I think is great. And then it's like, all right, I'm the person that's walking with you to kind of move some things forward and, create strategies to achieve the success or the goals as you name it, right? Like as they name their success, this is what success looks like for me. I'm a person that can help them get there. So all of that to say thank you for what you all are doing as well. But my therapist has given me many gems, especially in the last 2 years. And I'll just share openly, a couple of things I've really been working on in therapy. One is my relationship with my body, and then also just relationships in general, right? Because relationships are, no matter what type of relationships they are, they have an effect on us. And so one of the questions she gave me recently is something that I've shared with other people. I'm like, my therapist said, but she asked me, we were talking about a specific relationship with someone. And she said, what type of relationship with this person will cause you the least amount of harm? So, it totally reoriented the way that I look at the relationship, because I think sometimes we become very rigid. Camille, you mentioned boundaries earlier. I think we don't put boundaries in place because maybe we don't trust that we can keep them. And so then we just become rigid. It's like, well, I'll just cut it off. And it's like, but you can't walk through life cutting people off. And if you see value, right? If you see value in the relationship or the person, then cutting it off is also not being truthful about what you want with that person. So, what type of relationship with this person will cause you the least amount of harm? So then I'm thinking about it in terms of that relationship. But what has been the biggest gem of that question for me has also been looking at it through the lens of my relationship with myself. So what relationship with myself will cause me the least amount of harm? What is the type of relationship I need to have with myself that will cause me the least amount of harm? And it's been a gem. So I really have appreciated that question.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I especially appreciate you sharing your experience as far as having some hits and having some misses. I think that continues to be an aspect of therapy that is important to highlight and talk about, right? You're going to try to find somebody, and sometimes that somebody is not the somebody, and that's totally normal. That's okay. And for us to feel empowered to accept that, name it, and hopefully, if we need it, continue to search for somebody that feels like it could potentially be a hit. So thank you for sharing that. And also the part about the work. And I tell clients all the time, like, what we do for this hour, I mean, this is just a sliver. Like the work is going to happen outside of the office or outside of the session. And so thank you for encouraging folks to lean into that. I definitely appreciate that. And when you were talking about you deciding on a career path and how, the idea of sitting with people's problems was challenging for you, that sounds like some 3 stuff that resonates with me.
Okay.
It still is something that on a daily basis I have to check and have had to like really do my own work around and grow through, because that is, as an achiever, as somebody who has the tendency to see, like we said, potential in folks when they're not there yet, right? And they're really, their perspective is very much the hard stuff, the stuff that's a problem. And I'm like, oh, but like we can get there, and they're not there. That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard. And it's required a lot of work and patience and my own kind of, like I said, awareness and growth. So thanks for naming that too.
Yeah, thank you.
Andrew.
I had never even associated that with the 3. So yeah, that's helpful insight. Yeah, because I think that's been a theme throughout my life, honestly, is being able to see people. It's not better than they can see themselves, right? Because I think people see themselves and know themselves, sometimes even subconsciously or unconsciously. But I think I can see the ability for people to be better.
Yeah.
And to show up well, or, I see the potential in them to be more than what they are. And that's been very frustrating at times. It's like, if you only just saw it, if you could see what I could see, right?
Yeah.
I even told one of my friends, one day you're going to wake up and see yourself. And I'm just waiting for that day. Like the day you wake up and see, how amazing you are, it's going to be like fireworks. And I hope that there's even the ability to like contain it all, right? Because it's going to be, I know for this friend in particular, it's going to be big. It's going to lead to something big. But I'm just like, okay, I'll just wait. I'll just wait. But yeah, so.
I remember my mom saying that to me. When I was like hit middle school, I really started to struggle with self-esteem. Like really, just now I can see that it was lots of shame. But I didn't feel confident. And my mom would get so like frustrated. And I remember her saying, she was like, I can't wait for you to see yourself the way other people see you, the way I see you. And it wasn't until past like 5 years, I think that started to happen. And I look back, I'm so grateful for my mom and some of those conversations and, to get there. So also hoping and praying for your friend, Margaret, that does happen.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes it's a part of the journey though. And it's a part of some of our experiences it takes time and work to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, love that. And I loved the question that your therapist asked you. So thank you, Margaret's therapist. What's the relationship that would cause you, how do you want this relationship to be that would cause the least amount of harm? I really like that. And I love that in relation to our own selves. And even what you're saying, like, I've done a lot of work around my relation with my body, like that's huge. Like that's such a great question to ask people what relationship with your body causes you the least amount of harm. And that's a beautiful, beautiful, like kind of a big breakthrough question. I could see how it could be the case.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And, I'll just say on record again, I also lean into astrology quite a bit. And so that question also aligns with a question that this astrologer coach that I've worked with a little bit, I see her as a teacher as well. She said, what relationship with my body is in service to my spirit? Because there's much in my astrological chart that connects the body with the spirit. And so that the relationship with our body is not an exclusive one, right? That there's like this synergistic, symbiotic relationship between the mind, body, spirit, which is why we, need mind, body connection. But for me specifically, it's like what relationship with my body is in service to my spirit versus in service to some other thing that sometimes is elusive, to be honest.
That's right.
Yeah. So anywho, gems, wisdom, I use it all to be well.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
So you're obviously doing some incredible work, like for yourself, some incredible work for your community. You mentioned coaching quite a few times. We want you to share, like with our audience, share with us if there are any like specific elements of your work that you'd like to highlight or that you're excited to share with people, and where people can find you and connect with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So through my business, Illuminate Leadership Solutions, I provide organizational and leadership development consulting and coaching. So these questions around kind of like, how we show up, I generally frame those through either individual, executive, and leadership coaching, or working with businesses and organizations to do what I call transformative impact planning, which is this marriage of strategic planning and cultural transformation. Because I think most of the time in our organizations, when we are aiming to do something good in the world or make an impact of some, do something of import in the world and make an impact, we often forsake the fact that it's people who have to do the work. And so then we don't intentionally build healthy leadership cultures to drive our work forward. So I don't do strategy work without also focusing on what is the transformative leadership culture that you need in order to push these goals forward. So I love doing that work with organizations. I also really love coaching, and because it helps me to frame even the questions that you were asking about the individual and the collective. So yeah, I'm kind of in the trenches doing that on a daily basis, building a team. So you all will see more about that in the near future, but I can be found at MB is free, because I'm trying to be free, not my services, but my life. I do charge for what I do. But
don't get it twisted.
Not
that type of liberation.
Exactly. And that's an economic liberation. Okay?
Right. We're not doing that.
No, slavery ended. Slavery is over.
Pay us.
Yes, pay us. But I'm trying to live a free and liberated life. So
Absolutely.
MB is free on everything. Instagram, you can find, you can put that in on LinkedIn, my bio come up. So all of it is MB is free.
Perfect. Well, we're excited to see all the work, amazing work that continues to flow from you, from Illuminate Leadership Solutions, just everything that you're doing.
Thank you. And I'm grateful for this space that you all are carving out for people to share. It's lovely. And I enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.
Same.
You did too. Thanks
Same.
so much for your time and
All
all
right.
your gems and wisdom.
All the gems from you, gems from your therapist. We got gems.
Friends therapist.
Friends therapist. Yeah, your friend's therapist.
Yes, all the gems, all the gems. Yes.
Margaret.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for us.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next episode.